Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. And I also would like to hear your comments about this particular video that I'm going to be doing, this tutorial, and for that matter, other tutorials that you see in my channel. If you want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings or prints, you may do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is about how to paint a beach scene with some structures, tropical vegetation, beach grasses, etc. This particular image is of the, the Lighthouse at SANIBEL Island here in southwest Florida. It's a very picturesque location, fairly natural area, not too much of the man-made type landscaping, and it's a very nice location. So that's what I'm gonna paint. There will be plenty of sky here. There's a little bit of the Gulf of Mexico, the water. I'm going to bring some of that over here. This will be some sand, some beach type grasses, and some sea grapes and palm trees and other vegetation. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and do the painting. Now, for the most part, I use 140-pound cold press bright white paper. That's the paper that I use the most and the one that I like. Occasionally I've done paintings on hot press, but I'm not too fond of hot press paper. I had used the rough paper, the 300-pound. For some situations it works well, but for me, on the style of painting that I have, the 140-pound cold press seems to work much better than anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this painting. I'm going to do the sky first. I'm going to add quite a bit of water in the sky area. There will be some clouds, and it will be a very sunny looking painting. So I'm using a flat brush to do the sky. I'm going to go over that lighthouse, but I'm going to try to avoid the tube section. There we are. Bring the water over here. Bring a little bit more water. Bring the water right just above the horizon line, without touching that line. Barely above the horizon line. I'm going to remove some of the water that dripped over here and on the edge. And I'm going to bring a little bit more water into this area. Again, missing that tube that makes the lighthouse. Make sure that all my paper is covered. The best way to do that is to lean down and look at an angle, lower your point of view, your line of view, and look at an angle. That way you'll see that everything is covered. Okay, so now I'm going to change brushes to a round brush. This is a nice brush. It holds quite a bit of water, quite a bit of pigment. And I'm going to make a mixture of burnt sienna and a little bit of sepia. Not much. And I'm going to bring some of the lower area of some of these clouds over here. Like that. There too. like that. And some over here, kind of light, not too much. Looks like I didn't cover too much of the paper there with the water, but I'm gonna bring some of that over here, connect these clouds. The least amount of time that you spend on the sky, the better off you'll be. So that will be good enough. I'm gonna bring a little bit more of the ultramarine and a little bit more of the sepia. I'm gonna also bring in some brown matter into that mixture. Change the color of this gray a little bit more. There, like that. Just on the lower area of those clouds. Paper is dry there. Yep, I'm gonna bring a little bit more water there. Make sure that area is wet. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna let that dry. But while those areas are drying, I'm gonna make a mixture of manganese blue with ultramarine. Makes a really nice color for the sky. And I'm gonna bring some of those color here and get some of the kind of wispy effect of the clouds. And then I'm gonna also bring some cobalt blue. Here, get some of that blue over here. Like I said, that wispy effect of those clouds. Like that. Over here. Get rid of that little triangular shape. More of the cobalt blue. Paper is dry there. That's all right. I'm gonna bring some of that color right over here by that tube connected there. Same thing over here. There. Get rid of that. I like to get rid of that white area over here. So I'm gonna bring some, before the paper dries completely, I'm gonna bring some of that there and blend it right into that gray. And my sky is pretty much done. I'm gonna bring a little bit of that blue over here towards the horizon. And some over here too. That cloud. And over here. There, okay, the sky is done. I'm gonna let that dry. Now, while that is drying, I'm gonna go ahead and do the grasses. For that, I'm gonna wet the paper also in this lower area with a flat brush, especially the area where the grasses are going to be covering the sand, like that. I'll add a little bit more water there. Because of the lights that I use, the paper tends to dry a little faster, so I have to compensate for that. Okay, and then I'm going to make a nice mixture of raw sienna with aureolin yellow, but primarily the raw sienna and some cerulean blue for some of those grasses. A little bit more cerulean blue, more raw sienna. There we are. And start getting the base color for these grasses. There. It's kind of light color right now. I need to increase the value of those colors. There we are. There. right down almost right to the water, but the grasses in this area will be a little bit more intense. I'm gonna also bring some undersea green with that cerulean blue and the raw sienna. Start changing the value of these grassy areas. There we are. There. I'm gonna increase the, I'm not gonna wet my brush again because the paper is damp in that area. Bring more of the raw sienna and the sea green this time. Increase the value of those colors. Like that. Get that where that sand is. Now I'm going to separate the bristles with my finger like this. A little bit more, and I'm going to do some of the lower grasses over here, sticking out of the sand, like that. There. Now that's enough of that. Now I'm going to, into that mixture, I'm going to bring in some burnt umber and more of the undersea green. This time I'm going to bring in some Payne's gray into that mixture too, and get some of these grasses a little darker. I'm holding the brush about halfway and doing this. Get some of the detail of the grasses, especially in this area, a little closer to the viewer. Some of the taller grasses too, like that, and those grasses, that grassy area is finished. Now when I see that my paper is dry, where it's still kind of wet, so I'm going to wait for that before I paint the water. In the meantime, see what happened here? The little blossom that works really well. That's what I call happy accidents. Same thing over here, where this came down, the water came down over here and dragged the pigment. Another happy accident. Another one over here, where the water started going upwards instead of down. Another little happy accident. That is the beauty of watercolor. You cannot do that intentionally, and very, very difficult, almost impossible to duplicate that with any other medium. But watercolor, perfect. So now I'm going to take a small brush, make a mixture of brown matter with a little bit of cobalt blue and a little bit of sepia. For this chimney and the roof. I'm going to do them all at the same time, leaving some space for the foliage that's going to be in that area of these roofs. Like that. Put a little bit more water in my brush. A little bit of burnt umber into that too. Come over here, this is a little lighter. There, leave some for the palm trees. There, and those roofs are pretty much done. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna remove some of the moisture from my brush and lighten up, pick up some pigment here and lighten up this roof so it's pretty much comparable in value to this one. There. I'll touch those later. See what happened here? Yeah, really, really nice. I'm gonna see, this is Yeah, it's almost dry. And this is dry. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the water. This area will be the sand, so I'm gonna bring the water from here and down here. And for that, I'm gonna use some cobalt turquoise light mixed with a touch of yellow ochre. And come over here and do that water. This is what the sky is still a little bit damp, so that's why I didn't want to touch the horizon line. This is the color of the water on the Gulf of Mexico, especially around May and so forth. I'll leave a little bit of the sandy area, like that. I'm going to combine that with some manganese blue. I'll bring some of that manganese blue over here. Leave a little bit of white for some of those breakers. A little bit of wet area over here. There, like that. I'll also bring in some ultramarine blue with a touch of Payne's gray, and do this on the horizon. It's always a little darker on the horizon. There we are. Clean my brush, remove most of the moisture, and go back to those colors of the Gulf, and come over here and blend that and like that. Darken a few areas. Give the water a little bit more movement. Like that. It had this little white, I'm going to leave that alone. Like that. Okay. Now that area of the sand that is big will be wet. I'm going to, with a wet brush, I'm going to pick up some burnt sienna and a little bit of brown matter on that wet sand. Bring those colors right here, like that. And that wet sand there. A little bit of a burnt umber also. Some of those areas. Warm them up a little bit. There, like that. And while the paper is there, is drying in this area, I'm going to blend that. I'm going to bring a little bit of water here with some of that color, very light. Bring some of the brown matter and cobalt blue mixture, mostly the cobalt blue, and on that wet paper I'm going to give a few touches of this gray tone for the variations in the sand. Soften them up, give a little bit of texture with my finger. Something over here, and that's enough. Okay, so this is dry. No, I'm gonna wait. It's not almost dry. This is dry. That's dry. Okay. So now here comes the dark foliage, the tropical looking foliage. I'm gonna make a nice mixture of aureolin yellow with the raw sienna. Both colors combined make a really nice color. Mix that with, this time with Instead of cerulean blue, I'm going to use a little bit of manganese blue. Give it a little different color here. Very light for that. And then I'm going to make a mixture of raw sienna again. With undersea green, fairly dark this time. Yeah, very dark. And I'll come over here and do the foliage. And like that, showing a little bit of daylight through the foliage. There. Combined with some of that tropical looking color. Bring some Payne's gray to kind of cool down the value of those colors. Yeah, like that. And come over here. Like that. Mix with a little bit more raw sienna. And I'm going to bring in some burnt umber into that mixture as well. Gonna warm it up a little bit. Come over here and give it a different tone to that. There's some palm trees over here too. Different type of green than this. There's a cooler green over here. Warm green, cool green, warm green again here. Come down. And get more of that dark, cool green. And bring that down here, right to where those grasses are, the edge of the grasses. There we are, like that. Okay, now clean my brush again, pick up some new gumbosh and some cadmium orange. And I'll start adding some of the colors of the palm trees here. Also, I'm going to bring in some burnt sienna into that yellow. And like that. Clean my brush again. Pick up some undersea green. Some Payne's gray, and with that color I'm going to start doing these palm trees. I think I'm going to change brushes. Here we are. This will be better. There. Some permanent sub green, mixing that. Yeah, like that. A bit more of the permanent sub green mixed with the raw sienna. A bit more water in my brush. A bit of the aureolin yellow, and come over here and do those palm trees. Like that. We change brushes again. Put some ultramarine blue into that mixture. like that. And on this area, I'm gonna darken those colors so that this foliage meets where the grass is. There's gonna be a nice blend there. Yeah. Yeah, darken it over here. Okay. Now change brushes to a flat brush and make that connection. So same again, I'm going to separate the bristles like this and bring those colors right into the grasses, like this. And you get that color of the grass there. You get the color and the shape. This grass is over here. Drag that color, and with the separated bristles like this, you drag the color and create the shapes of the grasses against that dark green. Yeah, like that. And I'm also going to get a little bit more dark colors for some of the foliage that is against that building. A little bit more undersea green, some burnt umber, Payne's gray. Pretty much almost a dry brush effect here. Like that. A little bit more Payne's gray. Let's get some of this darker effects. Like that, against those grasses. There we are, that's it. Some of the dark fronds of these palm trees. There, like that. Bring some of those dark areas over here too. And different type of vegetation against that white building. And like that. Darken some of these areas too. Over here. There. And that area is done. So clean that brush, pick up another brush, get some of the gray color that's in my palette already, and do this building. Because it's in the sunlight, there's going to be this overhang from the roof. Creates a lot of shadow there in that area. This is dry now, so I'm going to get a smaller brush, smaller round brush, and get some of this burnt brown matter with a touch of sepia, very light. Do this. There we are. There. There. A little bit more of the brown matter. a little bit more of the brown matter. Come down over here and do that tube. Start with the light color first. There. And then I don't like that white there. I'm gonna combine it there into this. We can put the railing there later. So while that is dry, or kind of damp actually, I'm gonna make a richer mixture of the brown matter with sepia. And a touch of ultramarine to the dark area. Yeah. That, the shadow of that platform, and come down here. Change brushes. Another flat brush. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to remove the moisture from this brush. And with that soft bristle, I'm going to remove some of that pigment there and soften that edge. There, like that. Same thing over here. Give it a little bit of color there. Make this area a little darker. This edge. There, like that. And this shadow for that cylinder. Like that, there we are. There. Now I'm going to bring a little bit more of the brown matter. This time with a very light touch of burnt sienna. I give this a slightly different color. Very, very subtle. There. Now clean my brush, and with a thirsty brush, I'm going to pick up some of that moisture and that color while it already stained the paper. There, and that's it. So then I'm going to take a smaller brush, get some sepia, very light, and do this little things for the lighthouse. And the light itself, they're right there, and this little shadows out on the left side. The railing, there, and the supports. There you go. one over here. And the other one over here. Because of the distance, these are gonna be lighter. Okay. Now we do this. Like that. And there's also some members like this. Yeah, and the lighthouse is done. So now I'm gonna darken the left side of these chimneys. There, yeah. And put a little line over there, a little line over here. Get some cobalt blue with that gray. Quite a bit of the cobalt blue. And there's a door over here. And another door over here. And there's some type of window over here. And there's columns, supports or something, and there's a railing, something like that there. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to take my small flat brush, remove the moisture, and remove some of this pigmentation. It's kind of dark, like that. Okay, now that's better. Now that's in the shade. I will also pick up some of the blue that's in my palette, a little bit of ultramarine blue to that, and do a little bit more of the treatment on the water, like that. Waves coming onto the shore. And darken this a little bit more. There. Okay. And then I'm going to take a small brush, get some of those colors, the gray. And there's always some birds there, the seagulls. Yeah, like that. Bring over the ones in the distance. Come over here. Yeah, like that. Yeah. And that's it. So now I'm going to pick up some of the dark color that's already in my palette, and we'll sign here. There. I'm a signature member of the Florida Watercolor Society. And the painting is done. So I think before I remove the paper, the tape, I'm going to remove some of the pigment here and lighten up this edge of this tube. Like that. There, yeah, that's much better. Okay. And the lighthouse is done. So I'm gonna remove this tape, bring a dark board, so you'll be able to see what this looks like on a darker board. That sky is gorgeous. I love that what happened. And the same thing, all of this looks really nice. My happy accidents with watercolor. Like I said earlier, it's virtually impossible to achieve something like that intentionally with with watercolor, much less with other mediums. There's no way you can do that. So here comes the dark board, and I'm going to minimize this a little bit. There we are. SANIBEL Island Lighthouse in Southwest Florida. A very tropical looking painting. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy my painting. And please visit my website at aafinearts.com, where you will see information about my virtual classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. Until the next time.